I'm a mail carrier and I earn €620 per month.
I work as a caregiver. Prices have increased for everything, and with my salary, it's obviously not enough.
The minimum wage has recently increased across Europe. In Latvia, it rose by 24% in 2023, the highest increase in the European Union. But is it enough to cope with the rising cost of living?
To fight against in-work poverty, a new European directive requires member countries to ensure that their minimum wage is adequate. How is this determined, and what does it mean for workers? I am in Riga to meet with them.
In Latvia, the minimum wage has increased from 500 to €620 per month. However, with an estimated inflation rate of 20% last year in the Baltics, Visibility, a mail carrier, doesn't really see a difference.
I don't feel the increase in my salary at all. Prices have gone up a lot for everything, including food. Since I am with my husband, for now we can manage to pay the bills, but it's difficult. I wouldn't be able to survive if I were alone.
After discussions between trade unions, employers and the government, no compromise was reached on a level for the minimum wage, so the decision was left to Parliament. Martins, an economist for the Latvian trade unions, would have preferred a larger increase.
We are happy that it was raised at all because the negotiations were quite hard. Currently, the average wage for the last years reached over €1,400, so it would exceed €700. This is something that we are going for.
The new directive proposes that member states use either 60% of the median wage or 50% of the average wage as a benchmark to establish a more balanced minimum wage. However, Latvia's minimum wage remains one of the lowest in Europe, where there are significant disparities between countries because of different labour conditions.
How are minimum wages fixed in the EU? Here is our crash course.
The rules on minimum wages are not the same across the EU. Most countries have wage levels set by law. In the remaining countries, minima are set by trade union deals. There are big disparities too. Monthly minimum wages are €2,387 in Luxembourg, €1,981 in Germany, €620 in Latvia, and only €399 in Bulgaria. An incoming EU directive has two goals: to ensure an adequate minimum wage for every worker so they have a decent standard of living, and to improve access to collective bargaining. Guaranteeing adequate minimum wages is especially important for female employees, migrant workers, and people with lower skills. In Europe, 60% of minimum wage earners are women like Aya, a single mother and home carer who raises her 17-year-old son alone and struggles to make ends meet.
So I have to pay €250 all told for this one-room apartment. For phone, gas, electricity, rent. My son is growing up. He needs clothes. Shoes are expensive. Clothes are expensive. There's school, and we have to pay for train transportation. That's why I look for additional work.
Latvia, followed by other eastern countries, has the highest proportion of low-wage workers in the EU. Often they're poorly qualified. Edwards, an entrepreneur and chairman of an association for small businesses, wants a non-taxable minimum wage, as well as clearer, more transparent social security contributions.
Personally, I had to rethink my business model because I cannot afford some temporary workers and attract young people to work because this social security burden is too high for me.
Edwards supports the increase in the minimum wage but believes that employers have not been adequately consulted.
We have to take into account other costs like taxes, and there has to be the balance with the possibilities or how much the businesses can pay.
The union's economic advisor puts the emphasis on the importance of collective bargaining.
We are asking for the government to implement sort of tax reliefs for different benefits that have been collectively negotiated for healthcare expenses, for catering, and this year we are negotiating on education as well.
For example, the construction sector was able to negotiate a higher minimum wage at €780 and hopes to reach €900 next year. So how can a compromise be reached on the adequate level of the minimum wage? I spoke to the welfare minister in charge of labour, Ivica Silina.
It was absolutely clear that we should do something because our minimum wage was too low in comparison with other Baltic states. We were historically dependent from Russian gas, and yes, our prices last year went much higher than in Western countries.
What could be a way to improve the dialogue with the different social partners?
The intention of the legislator last year was go more or less around 45% of the average income of Latvian people, and it will be around 45%, but not yet this year. That's why we actually need to probably discuss even more with our business partners, with our trade unions before next year. We have to be sure that there will be a mutual consent that we can go much further. What our business people talking about is a minimum amount of non-taxable payment. Before, the non-taxable amount was the same as the minimum wage. Now it's a little bit different. I believe we will follow with the discussions about this number as well.
How important is it to help minimum wage earners and low wage earners for the overall economy?
One of the first tasks which I actually started was for people who are living on lower income. They will have bigger social benefits where they can be helped with house payments and some other issues. So government is ready to also improve our workers' skills, because otherwise, without those people who can work and earn the money and live due to their needs, it is not also good for economical growth of our country. So there are many directions where we will work, and one of the most important is to promote and to invest in those people who are not already very young, but they can change their profession and try to learn something new.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Collective bargaining, economic impact analysis and consideration of workers' needs are three tools highlighted by the agency Eurofound, so that each member state defines its minimum wage, ensuring a decent standard of living for every European worker in all circumstances.